Actually, we returned Saturday from our scrimmage against Northern Iowa, which I thought learned a lot of good things. I thought younger guys in particular really played well. Obviously, it's something that there's no media at those things, so that in terms of initial reporting, it's all what Patrick had sent out and tweeted out. But I thought in terms of watching a learning curve take place, how guys had grown and had taken a step since last Sunday with the Platteville game, that things were going in the right direction. And things that maybe 3 months, 6 months ago were not instinctual for certain individuals now are becoming more instinctual. I think that helps when you have 4 seniors like we do. That helps with the leadership. But really, it was happy with the way we shared the ball, the way we moved, played very unselfishly. And obviously it was good for us in terms of a Northern Iowa team that traditionally always is at the top of their league and usually playing in March. But we'll take that, break down the film here as soon as we get done with this press conference, and then start to prepare as we go through the week for Central Arkansas opening up on Friday night. But like I said, I was pleased with how we've grown since Sunday with the Platteville game, and hopefully we'll continue to get better because we have to. I mean, we've got definitely some stiff challenges ahead of us, but also we need to get better individually and collectively as a team. But was happy with what I saw on Saturday.
Well, you've had your guys for, I guess, over a month of practice and have seen them against a couple other teams. Do you feel like you have a pretty good feel for what you have?
Yeah, I think it became even more evident on Saturday. I think that's something I knew was just going to take time for, obviously with the decisions we have to make as a staff on who's going to be on the floor, how much, in what situation. That is starting to crystallize a little bit more every day. But I think going through this, and I didn't ever feel that we could force feed it and force it to happen in terms of who was going to step up and show that it would gradually happen naturally over time. And that's what I've seen take place here. Specifically Saturday, I thought it was very evident in terms of experience showed. And that was and even some younger players that, for example, Demetric Trice, I've been impressed with him every day. I mean, he plays well beyond his freshman years in terms of he just acts and walks and talks like a point guard and runs a team like a point guard and just makes point guard plays. And I was very happy with what he showed on Saturday, but several other guys. I could go up and down the roster, but it's slowly starting to take form of who can be in those positions. And then, like I said, we'll even use these next few games. We'll probably always be trying to figure out who can help and who's ready and who's not quite ready now in November, but maybe by December or January will be. So that's the nice thing about having this type of depth, is that there's going to be developing options as we go through the season, and keep in mind it's a very long season.
Obviously, there's good high expectations for this team. That's been confirmed by some of the polls that have come out recently. How are these guys handling that so far?
Every time we've talked about it, they've approached it as business as normal, and we haven't shied away from it. We understand, as I've said all along, and it's always been this way in this program, that the expectations on the outside will never supersede what's on the inside. And these guys are a very confident group, but they understand also. I think one thing that will help this group is what they went through last year and how they had to dig themselves out from a hole and mature and grow. And they understood or through the year understood how important this process and the everyday aspect is to it. And they've taken the same approach. They've practiced pretty well, other than maybe a blip here or there where they haven't been as consistent. But it helps when you have a mature group. I mean, you have 4 seniors leading the way. And your best coach teams are always your player coach teams. And this group has taken on a leadership and ownership of that locker room.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can you draw on 2 years ago as well, when there were very high expectations, and you did have strong leaders on that team too?
Yeah, to some extent. I think the one thing they can draw from that team is that specifically our seniors that were sophomores in that group, is that they approached the 14-15 season the same way they approached 13-14, and they didn't skip any steps in the process. They knew they were going to be pretty good. They knew expectations were high, but they knew they also couldn't get ahead of themselves. And if you start skipping steps in the process and don't take care of things in preparation and maturity and improvement in November, December, January, it's irrelevant what happens in March. So that group had a very mature approach to that process as well. I think this group's a little dynamically made up a little bit differently, and there's not a Kaminsky there in terms of that. And that group was such a special, it was almost a trifecta of terrific talent, terrific maturity, but also all of them, from a basketball IQ standpoint, understood what needed to be done. And that was talk about a player-coach team. There was a lot of times we sat in the huddle, and it was Jackson and Gosser and Kaminsky doing most of the talking in the huddle. So that's what experience can do for you. It grabs that ownership and that leadership role and really rolls with it.